So welcome everyone to this TEL SIG webinar where we're going to have a look at the many different areas that IFLA is involved in. And we have 4 speakers today who have very kindly volunteered to talk about the areas that they're involved in and their experiences in different programs. So we have Janet Fletcher, who's the Secretary of the Library Buildings and Equipment section, and she will be introducing what IFLA is and what it means to get involved. Marisa King will be talking about the work of the Academic and Research Libraries section committee, which she is Secretary of. ENSULIB's aim is to encourage librarians to inspire their communities into more environmentally sustainable action. And Saima will be speaking on her role as a media officer with them and her current involvement with the Green Library Award. And Kate Cutness will share her experiences of attending an IFLA conference and her current involvement as a member of the Buildings and Equipment Standing Committee. And Natalie will be monitoring the chat, so if you have any questions for any of the speakers, just pop them in the chat and she'll be fielding them for our Q&A session. So I will just share the slideshow, which we have one slideshow for everyone, and I hope it'll all go well. Never a given. So, slideshow. Okay, so our first slide, and we will just start with a karakia, and then I will hand over to our first speaker. Kia inui tātou, mori oho, mori tū, mori ora kia tātou, homie, hui, taikie. Now I will hand over to Janet.
Natalie, are we recording?
Yes, we are.
Oh, okay, thanks. Thanks, Diane.
Kia ora o te whanau nau mai, haere mai. Thank you, Diana, and thank you for LIANZA to asking me to talk about IFLA and why it's important that we have library staff from Aotearoa involved in IFLA. There are quite a few Kiwis already involved in IFLA, but we could always do with more. I spoke with Winston Roberts earlier this week, and he's been involved in IFLA for about 40 years, so I'm actually rather a newbie. But what I've been tasked to do is to just talk about IFLA in general. And I've been a member of IFLA since 2008, when I became a member of the Academic and Research Libraries Standing Committee. And I've been involved ever since. And IFLA is one of those things that sort of you get involved in and you don't seem to be able to get away from it. And I did think I was going to do that, and then I couldn't help myself. And about a year's break, I was back at the Library Buildings and Equipment Standing Committee. So why? What makes IFLA such an interesting thing to be part of? Oh, bother. I was going to put my timer on. I'll just put it on now because I've got 10 minutes and I actually know that I run out of time. So I think we were going to put up a web page. Were we going to put that up at all? You know, there is a website. It's a comprehensive website, and that will tell you a lot about the association. But it is a federation of library associations. So it's a little different to other associations that you might be belong to that are for individual members. It does have personal membership, but it's very much an organisation of organisations, and that impacts on how the organiser operates, how who's entitled to vote on issues, and so on. It's the largest library international body. It has membership from over 150 countries, and it's been around since 1967. It's established under Dutch law, and so therefore we operate under the Dutch version of the EU statutes, and that it does impact certain ways, again, of what we do. For example, we have the General Data Protection Regulation that we have to abide by. One thing you learn about IFLA very quickly is that it's full of rules. It's full of rules and it's full of forms. And my colleagues might like to agree with me about that, and which is good, but it also can drive you nuts trying to find out what you should be doing and what you can't do and what you can do. It's also got official languages. So its languages are Chinese, Arabic, French, German, Spanish, Russian, and English. English is sort of the operating language. What happens, though, is that we tend to forget about the other languages. So we're constantly having to remind ourselves that this is an international association, and it is important that we hear other voices from around the world. And even when we're talking within our section committee meetings, to remember that for many of our members, it's English as a second language. And so we're often reminded, slow down. And when you add accents, like an Irish accent to English, for example, it can be very hard for our colleagues to follow what's going on. So subtitling is very important, and allowing people to do presentations in our formal languages is important too. IFLA does need to make money. It does have a head office in The Hague. It does have a small group of staff. It has infrastructure it has to pay for. It pays for advocacy work and so on. And so it does need to make money. And I guess that's where the Congress comes, that I'll talk about in a moment. But very few people are paid. So we've got this massive organisation with hundreds, if not thousands of people involved, and we are all volunteers. And there's no money to support our work. So we have to do a lot of what we do through our networks, and that is quite challenging, but it also has its advantages. The main activity for IFLA is pre-COVID days, turning up to the Congress. And when you get involved with IFLA, one of the rules is that you are expected to attend in person to the Congress. And that's all very nice, but you've got to be able to afford to chip around the planet on an annual basis, if not attend midterm meetings. And so it's interesting that COVID seems to have changed that. There's been a bit of a shift there with far more interest, I think, in IFLA, because we can do a lot of things online. Having said that, the Congress this year is in Dublin and we're expected to turn up. That has most of the reason behind that are financial, and being pragmatic about that. Next year, I think it's going to be more of a hybrid situation. But when you're talking about trying to get libraries together across the world, when a lot of people are unable to travel, it seems to be a contradiction. Nope, you've all got to turn up to Dublin or you're not included. So there's a lot of discussion around that this year. So getting support from your institution can be quite valuable if you want to participate in IFLA. That can provide you with financial support, but if not financial support, at least giving you time to work on the various things that you'll be involved in. And I remember having that conversation with Marisa, didn't we, Marisa? There are many ways to be involved in IFLA work. There are sections, special interest groups, divisions, regional councils, advisory committees. And that's where looking at the website, but also talking to people involved in IFLA, like people attending today, ask questions. think about what you might like to be involved in, because there are many different opportunities. In regards to section members, like what I've been belonging to for the last 15 years, there are elections held. You're elected for a 4-year term, but there are elections every 2 years because people come and go, and also it enables some continuity between elections. So people sort of carry over for 4 years, and you can stand again for another 4 years, and then you have to leave that group to ensure that other people get the opportunity. Like many organisations, it can feel when you're new and you're wanting to participate, sometimes it can feel a bit cliquey. You know, you've got many people like me who've been around for a while. We know each other very well. And so sometimes that can be a bit daunting, but I wouldn't, you know, just persevere and break through that feeling of awkwardness, because you'll certainly, then it'll get into your blood. IFLA is a mini United Nations. I've worked here with all its messiness and wonderfulness that involves. The Congress has 3,000 to 4,000 people turn up, and they come from all walks of life, wear their national costumes, so it's colourful, it's vibrant, it's exciting, it's wonderful. Of course, there's also causes some drama. There's always some drama going on, but it's a great sort of feeling of being part of humanity. And to participate, you don't need to be a senior person. You just need passion and the drive. And it's important that if you do get voted onto a section, that it's not just for your CV, that you actively participate. And it does take a lot of work. There's no doubt about it. I'm going to skip what I've done over the 15 years, and hopefully others will talk about what they do. But if anybody has any questions after this session about what I've been involved in, just give me a yell, drop an email. So what have I, in my last minute or so, what have I got out of IFLA? I've travelled to interesting places. I've been fortunate to have gone to many of the congresses. I've been to Puerto Rico and Poland, to places I can't even pronounce, like Wroclaw, which we know is not Wroclaw. It's another way of pronouncing it. I've visited amazing libraries, of public libraries, special libraries, academic libraries. You know, I've just, the libraries I've seen around the world has been fantastic. I've learned a lot about what libraries do, and the similarities and the differences, what people do with lots of money, what people do with very little money, and anything in between. And I think that keeps me humble, because it's really fantastic to hear what people do, mainly the ones that do amazing things with not much money. It certainly makes you think, it makes you appreciate what you have, but it also makes you wonder about how you can help others. I had this wonderful chat to a South African librarian, and she was saying her staff wanted to have another training room for 20 people. And she said, we've got 250,000 students. What do you think a training room for 20 people is going to do? Go away and think about it a bit more. So it's those sort of challenges that other people have, which I find interesting. So my top 3 things that I get out of IFLA. IFLA is all about people. So you establish the most amazing networks from people from all around the world. You are participating in something that's so much bigger than just you. And those networks stay with you for a long time. And out of those networks come enduring friendships. I have got friends around the planet. We meet up for cocktail evenings and, Zooming cocktail evenings and all. One of them texted me the other day, what plane are you catching to Dublin? You know, it's those beautiful friendships that you make, which is really fantastic. And also, I really do think it sustains me on those days when you do wonder why you come to work. It's a fabulous profession. It's given me so much. And so to me, my involvement with IFLA, I've written here, deep, rich and fulfilling. It's really sustains me through many situations, and it's just fantastic. So there you go. I hope you're all excited, and I've probably got over my 10 minutes, Natalie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janet. Marisa, would you like to share your experiences with the academic and research libraries?
Absolutely. Now, Diana, are you going to run my slides?
Is it not up? Because
No,
it's up on my screen.
I can't see them.
Try again with the share screen. See if you can.
Okay.
I think you've got the host permission, so that's all good.
If you can't, I can always share my slides from here. Oh, there we go.
Think.
Wonderful. So if you could go to the slide before that, number 5.
Yes, I'll just start from the
Oh,
beginning
cool.
and go down there. Sorry, I thought they were all showing before.
It's all good.
Because
No
I've been looking at them.
That's quite okay. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Ngāti Pākehā te iwi, ko Otaki te hau kāinga, ko Marisa tōku ingoa. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you very much, Tel Sig, for the opportunity to speak. It's lovely to be back amongst my Tel Sig friends today. The purpose of my presentation is really to introduce you to the Academic and Research Library section of IFLA, which is relevant to all of you, to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do, and then to outline a little bit about the professional development, networking and information sharing opportunities that we offer to academic and research librarians all around the world, including you. So the Academic and Research Library section, or ARL as we call ourselves, is one of about 40 professional sections that are part of IFLA. And we are a collaborative team on the committee of 21 colleagues based in 15 countries across Europe, North and South America, Africa and Australasia. So our focus is truly global, and we have a range of experience on our committee, from very senior librarians of Janet type level to new and emerging professionals. Most of our committee work in the sector, but a few like me are retired librarians who have chosen to undertake this voluntary role for the benefit of our colleagues. The committee is led by a team of 3 officers, which comprises me as secretary, Gulchan Cribb, who is a library management consultant based in Australia. She is our chair, and our information coordinator, Jerome Fronti, who's a collection manager for the National Library of France. So what is our role? We see our main functions as firstly supporting cooperation between libraries and their promotion as core institutions for research and education. We facilitate the exchange of information between libraries on new trends, developments, best practices, etc. And we monitor current and emerging issues and their relevance to academic and research libraries. So that all sounds very grand. What does it mean in practice? Basically, it means providing professional development opportunities, networking and information sharing opportunities, which are available to all librarians working in the academic and research library sector. In fact, to anyone who's interested in our sector. So what we offer is available to all of you. You don't need to be a member of IFLA to participate. Everything that we do is openly available and free of charge. Next slide, please. So what do we offer? Firstly, our webinar series. I'm just going to pop in here and get a link to our webinar page and pop that in the chat. So you can, I'll pop a few links in the chat today so you can look up things that you're interested in. Just give me a second here. Can't quite get this to work. One moment. I'll try that again. No, that's not going in the chat. That's okay. I might have to send these links to Diana later to distribute. But basically, we've been planning and delivering a series of webinars for the global community since 2019. We generally hold 2 to 3 webinars a year. The most recent one was Tales of Rising from the Ashes, and that featured 4 speakers from Nigeria, Lebanon, South Africa, and Brazil, who had been involved in experiencing and dealing with a disaster, such as a fire or an earthquake at their libraries. And we also had a professional psychotherapist from Germany who discussed the topic more from a people perspective. So as some of you will know, our latest webinar was scheduled for last Wednesday at 4 p.m. New Zealand time on the topic of research ethics in an open research environment. We're very excited about that. One of our speakers was, oh, thank you, Natalie. That's very, very kind of you. One of our speakers was going to be Professor Spencer Lilly from Victoria University. And we had 3 other speakers lined up. Unfortunately, we had some last minute technical issues, and so we've had to postpone the event. I can tell you that that event has been rescheduled to Friday, the 17th of June at 4 p.m. New Zealand time. And once we have the Zoom webinar and link all set up, I will distribute that on the TELSIG listserv and the TELSIG Facebook page. Next slide, please. So something else we're very proud of at ARL is our annual IFLA Congress attendance grant. Thanks to generous sponsorship from Ex Libris and SAGE, we offer 3 attendance grants for the IFLA Congress each year to 1 professional each from Africa, Latin America and Asia Pacific. This year we didn't get any applications from New Zealand, which didn't surprise me. I think it was just not the right time for people to be thinking about international travel. But I'm mentioning this because our next Congress will be held 2023 in Rotterdam. So I'm just giving you advance notice to start planning your travel grant application. You don't have to be a member of IFLA to apply. You just have to be a member of a National Library Association, such as LIANZA. And the purpose of the grant is to enable 3 librarians to attend the Congress for the first time. And we're particularly looking for new or emerging professionals. And as it says there, the grant provides support for travel and or accommodation of up to €700. So just something to start thinking about for next year. One of the reasons you might like to try and get to the Congress is that ARL holds a hot topic session, which is always eagerly awaited. This year's session is on the subject of truth, evidence and memory, academic libraries as cultural rights defenders. And one of the speakers at that session is going to be New Zealand's National Librarian, Rachel Essen. So as Janet said, it's not an easy thing getting yourself to a Congress, but it's certainly something that I think is worth aiming for. Next slide, please. Yeah, thanks, Janet. IFLA, ARL, is also very active on social media. We do have a blog site that all academic and research librarians are welcome to contribute to. Any topic that is relevant to the scope of our section is welcome. Earlier this year, I actually did a post about the work that TELSIG does in New Zealand to support this network. and that was assisted by Natalie and Nita, and that was very well received by our international colleagues. So that's something to think about if you fancy yourself as a bit of a blog writer. We also have a very active Facebook page, which currently has about 5,500 followers. We're active on Twitter, and we also have YouTube and SlideShare pages where we share recordings of our previous webinars. Next slide, please. So that's just a very brief roundup of what ARL does and what we can offer to you as professionals in the sector. Do check out our website for information on all of the things I've discussed. It also includes on the website, there's a link where you can sign up to our listserv mailing list so that you receive our regular newsletters and notices about upcoming events. That's all from me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Marisa. Yeah, we may get a big uptick in memberships. That sounds really great, getting notified about upcoming events. Saima, would you like to talk about your experiences?
Yeah, thank you. You can share, yeah. Hello, my name is Saima Qutab. I'm a librarian from 15 years working in Pakistan and Saudi Arabia in different libraries, except public library. I have worked all types of libraries. I think my career is quite vibrant. Currently, I'm taking a break from profession because I'm doing a PhD in information systems from University of Auckland, and I'm studying crowdsourcing in the GLAM sector. So I'm still connecting with my libraries, hoping to come back to my profession. My journey with IFLA started when I won a fellowship, J. Jordan Fellowship, which was the equally sponsored by IFLA and OCLC. This was Early Career Librarians Fellowship. Every year they would sponsor 5 librarians from developing world countries. And we will be treated very fabulously by them. We were allowed to visit their headquarters in Ohio, USA, and OCLC, and then an IFLA headquarter and a Royal Library, Netherlands, and multiple national libraries. So that was quite a turning point in my career as well. And this opportunity allowed me to understand better how IFLA works. And as Janet shared, IFLA is quite complex, and they do acknowledge it themselves. So first thing to say, oh, we are complex. We are a very, very big organization, and we have to keep everyone in the loop, and we try to get the needs and requirements of everyone around the world, and that makes us quite complicated. And during that time, I become a member of IFLA and ALA as well, and I get a chance to look more closely how they work and their activities and stuff. Then in 2016, I went to IFLA Congress in Columbus, Ohio, US, to present a couple of my papers. One of that paper was in ENSULIB, which is Environment and Sustainable Libraries section, the SIG. That was, at that time, it was a SIG special interest group working under public library section. So I went there to present my paper, and I was communicating with the chair of that SIG, and they said, hey, why don't you come for an evening tea? And I went then and say, why don't you come to our business meeting? And then I went to their business meeting, and they were looking for some volunteers to expand. And there I raised my hand to become their media officer, because I have some expertise with website management. So since 2016 until 2021, I stay with them as their media officer, information coordinator and media officer. So my job role was to looking after their website, all the announcements on the IFLA website going under ENSULIB, and I was also part of their regular meetings, midterm meetings, though all held online even before COVID. And participating in their annual plans, future planning, report writings, and also planning for satellite meetings and Congress. So this was the activity that we were doing during these years, and this was a very, very fulfilling and rewarding experience because I get to learn heaps of things from these fabulous people who have a lot of experience, and they were based in all corners of the world, and it's just an amazing experience for me. So ENSULIB is now it is a section. So in 2019, 2020, we started a campaign, and we started to get, we needed 40 votes. As Janet said that there is individual membership with IFLA, but mainly there are associations, libraries, library associations, and libraries are members of IFLA. So you need to have 40 corporate members voting of support to transition of SIG to a section. So we were able to run this campaign, and within our own circles, we communicated with people, and we asked them that, do you want to support us and this who we are. This was a very exciting experience as well, because we are connecting people all over the world, libraries and organizations, to support us. And we were able to become a section after almost 10 years of staying as a SIG in 2021. So currently I'm taking some break because I'm in my final year of PhD, but I'm still a reviewer with them. Under my review responsibilities, I have to look after their Green Library Award nominations and see that what they are doing, and then also analyzing and reporting back among other members. So this is basically my journey with ENSULIB. I'm taking this opportunity also to share a little bit more about library awards that is being offered by IFLA. As Marisa shared, a travel grant from their section for individuals, and there are some other travel grants as well for individuals, but these 3 awards are specifically for the libraries. So ENSULIB offer, since 2016, they're offering 2 awards for libraries. And the category 1, they're offering the Green Library Award. So any library with a structure or practices in terms of waste management, sustainable energy, or alternative energy resources, lighting and stuff like that. If they have anything, so we have developed this year over year. So we started with the very minimum criteria, but now our criteria is growing, and we have a lot of categories and checklist underneath this category that we have to look at how libraries are doing. So under this category, we receive different nominations. Libraries send their plans, what they are doing, what their practices with video entries, document entries, resources, photographs, and other sort of evidences to show that how they are doing. And the second category is Best Green Library Project. So in this, the libraries are encouraging their community to adapt sustainable practices. So they are offering trainings, workshops, awareness campaigns, resources for their community to become more aware and engage in sustainable practices. So these 2 categories are at the moment. So this second category is rather new. We started this last year. Yeah, so this is one type of award that you can apply for your library. Second is IFLA Systematic Public Library Award. This is offered from Public Library section, and this is operating since 2014. Early few years it was not consistent, it's every other year, but now they are pretty consistent and offering this every year. This is presented to the libraries which have a combination of best open functional architecture, creative IT solution, and also looking at the combination of, they have bringing together local culture and digital technologies together. To qualify, the library should be a newly built. So for example, that new libraries are opening in New Zealand, or sometimes the libraries are shifting to new places. They're old library, but they're shifting to new facility. So if they have shifted last year, they can be eligible to apply for grant year award. It should be just a 1-year-old facility, and they have their criteria about the building tech and the incorporation of local culture. Then similarly, there is another award, which is from Management and Marketing section, is operating since 2003. This is IFLA International Marketing Award. So it is for the libraries who use marketing strategy as the main plan of changing something or presenting something new. So their all new strategy and plan is focused with the marketing mix or marketing strategies. It could be anything. It could be building, it can be new service, it can be some new resources, can be anything. But the idea behind this is that when they did this strategic planning, it was around the marketing itself. So these 3 awards, I think it's very interesting for the libraries, and there's a lot of potential you can apply to these. Of course, each categories have different kinds of award, sponsored by different publishers or sometimes from databases. And these awards, there's a, for example, I can talk about ENSULIB. We have we offer prize money to first one, and the second 2 runner-ups, they are provided with certificates. For public library award, they have award for 3 top libraries, but they also provide certificate of recognition to 10 runner-ups. So they have different, and it's always good to get some sort of recognition for your library and showing the world that how fabulous your library team is working and contributing. Yeah, so that's all from my side. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Kat, would you like to talk about your experiences with IFLA congresses?
Thank you. Kia ora koutou katoa and talofa lava. So I'm Kat Cuttress. I've got quite a personal journey, I suppose, to share with me and my connection and my experiences of IFLA. Going back, I can hardly believe it, but going back 20 years, because it feels just like yesterday, to the Congress in Glasgow in 2002. And a theme that I think has come through is collegial support, and that IFLA is such a connection of people. And I suppose I would give credit to Dan Dorner and to the late Gary Gorman, who really supported me to get to a Congress. So this was what was then the MLIS, the Master of Library and Information Studies research project. I submitted it as an abstract, and it was accepted onto the program at the IFLA Congress in 2002. And I would just say as well, something that Marisa certainly mentioned was around funding and financial support. So by virtue of the Nora Bateson Scholarship, which is a Victoria University scholarship, still is and was then, it's to provide an overseas travel or study experience for a recently qualified MIS or MLIS as it was then student. But I would just really endorse and repeat really Marisa's comments about travel grants and a variety of different support mechanisms and funding support that you can avail yourself of, and to keep your eyes and ears open for that, because it makes a big difference and can really help. So off I went to Glasgow. And back then, this is a photo, but as I'm sharing here, from the 2010 Congress, but I couldn't find one from 2002. But I know that there were over 4,500 delegates at Glasgow, and about a dozen Kiwis at that time, I think. And I really I love this image because it shows and it makes us remember what in-person conferences used to be like. Thousands of people jammed literally into one small space. I don't think it will ever be like that again post-COVID or with COVID, but it certainly was then. And as a little personal piece of trivial information, I suppose, I actually met my now husband. I met him there in Glasgow, another Kiwi. He was one of the other dozen. And Yeah, my husband now. So there you go. There's another thing. But really, and this resonates with some of Janet's reflections at the start, that whole experience, I know, makes me laugh too. Hope it makes him laugh. That whole experience was so enlightening. So it totally broadened my view on what was possible, what was necessary across the world in terms of library and information skills and support and endeavours and efforts. I learned so much more, particularly then, about library contexts in developing nations. It just opened my eyes tremendously. In the 20 years between then and now, I was quite peripherally aware of IFLA's activities, and I did keep an eye on things from a distance. And it was really the governance reforms that IFLA underwent 2021, I think, that led to quite a concerted effort, I would say, across New Zealand Aotearoa to raise our awareness of our library community and increase, if we could, our representation on various regional divisions and sections. I would also just give a bit of a shout out to Winston as well. I can see you on the call, Winston. And I know Winston was, over many of those years, also in contact with me and very supportive and keeping my awareness up personally, but also the awareness for us here in New Zealand of what IFLA could do and was doing and what the opportunities would be. So I found myself last year, 2021, I just finished a 2-year term as chair of Public Libraries of New Zealand. So I had a bit of scope, I suppose, to get involved. And as someone who's worked in all sectors, so university, public and special at various times through my career, that cross-sector and that very global kind of lens really appealed. That was why I was so keen to, if I could, participate in and contribute to IFLA's efforts. I also have an abiding passion for all things related to library buildings and spaces, and that meant the library buildings and equipment section was exactly where I wanted to try to be. And I had Janet's wonderful support. Janet's the secretary of that section. So I put forward a candidate statement and went through the election process and was successful in being able to join that committee. So that section, sorry. So just to describe, I suppose, the focus of that section, what we consider is everything, all matters relating to the design and the construction and the use and the management of library buildings, library spaces, library furnishings and equipment. And we really try and facilitate, yes, I can see you there, stood lovely. We really try and facilitate interactions between architects and library professionals, librarians, and the communities that they serve as well. We have quite a presence in social media. Janet's very helpfully shared the links. We've got a beautiful Instagram account. Actually, if we go to the next slide, thanks, Diana. I've got some screen clips of all the things we do. We have a beautiful Instagram account called Inspiring Libraries, just full of absolutely delicious, pictorial representations. We're very active on Twitter. And we have a Facebook group as well. But just something that Janet mentioned about how to kind of get your wheels rolling or kind of, break into, I suppose, the various circles and networks that are already existing. So at my very first meeting, I put my hand up to support the information officer of the section. That's Carl McCauley, who's the university librarian at Maynooth University in Ireland. And he's the information coordinator for our section, and I'm effectively his support or his understudy. So together we monitor and maintain the Facebook and the Twitter accounts, and we support the Instagram account that I mentioned, Inspiring Libraries. But that was such a, I found that just such a key way, a wonderful way to really kind of hit the ground running and to get right involved and to get that awareness built. We have a really, as I say, quite a vibrant sort of presence there in social media, 2,400 members in the group, and I'm every week accepting new members. And so hoping that the 30 people on the call here will all be, if you're not already, members of the Facebook group by the end of today. That's your call to action. The other thing that I pretty quickly put my hand up for to help out with was the Webinate Series, which has really taken off in the last year or so. We've got a dedicated YouTube channel as well, where we have all of these free events recorded and available. And we featured last year, we had Carolyn Robertson from Christchurch, who was one of the guest speakers around the future of space and library service design. And I suppose just sort of a final point of what I'm quite heavily involved with at the moment is planning a webinar for later in the year after the Congress in July, focused on building resilience and looking at local solutions for some of the very many global challenges that we face. A real focus on sustainability, on resilience and inclusivity, and also looking at really low budget kind of grassroots, what we'd say kind of number 8 wire innovation, as opposed to perhaps, you know, your multi-million-dollar sort of big flash refurbishments and new builds. And just to give you an insight to the sort of things that I've been involved with as part of planning this webinar. So for a start, planning meetings with other section committee members. So University Librarian at Sydney, with Tracy, who's a design specialist in architecture from a firm based in Minnesota in the States, and with Marianne, who is our chair, who's based in Parramatta. And we get together every fortnight or so for a planning meeting. What then came from that was a contact with colleagues in Sweden, the Helsenborg City Library. And it's actually the, if you can just see, I know I'm only a thumbnail, if you can just see the beautiful building behind me and the hot air balloon. So this is a new build which is taking place in Helsenborg. On the ground floor is actually a library, and it's a concept around community co-development, bringing together a whole range of community services into one shared safe space with the library at the heart. And this is the kind of architectural concept. We're hoping, this is a bit of a spoiler alert, because we're hoping to feature this in the webinar later this year. But I had this amazing meeting one, weeknight our time, was early morning their time, with this colleague called Emma, who's based there in Helsenborg. And I also had a committee member, Louise Dahlberg, who's another committee member in our section from Sweden, join me. And this goes back to Janet's point around language and around a truly global flavour and approach, because I obviously well, actually not obviously, but I could only speak in English, and Louise was there to help provide translation support to Emma so that we could share our ideas and insights effectively in both English and Swedish. And that just felt amazing to be able to do that. So my real takeaway, I suppose, my kind of call to action is to, put your hand up, see what's possible, sign up for the free stuff. There's an awful lot of it out there, and be prepared to have your eyes open and your perspectives shifted. Thank you so much. Oh, and you may find love. I can't top that. That's very true, Janet, very true. Thank you so much.
It's definitely an added incentive, isn't it, to volunteer. Are there any questions that people would like to ask about for any of the speakers?
I'll put the question into the chat, but I'll ask it live. Marisa, are members of ARL primarily from university libraries, or does it go down to the polytechnic community college type level as well?
Yes, the members of our committee are mostly from university type libraries, but there's certainly nothing to preclude anyone from the polytechnic community college type institutions getting involved at all. We'd welcome it. More diversity is good. Yes, thanks, Janet. That's something I didn't mention. So one of our committee members, for example, is the State Librarian of Queensland. And as I mentioned, Rachel Eston from the National Library is going to be speaking at our hot topic session at the Congress. So yeah, it does include the libraries doing research outside of the academic and tertiary sector.
Okay, do we have any other questions that anyone curious about the different committees there are, or thinking of volunteering for them? You can always just put it in the chat. Remain semi-anonymous.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe Winston might want to talk about his involvement as well. That would be interesting.
Natalie, is that an invitation now, or?
I think you could take this moment to introduce yourself too. That would be great.
Well, this could go on a long time. I'll have to keep it very, very short, but my key message would be, look, just to introduce myself, I'm at the National Library. I'm the chair of the Asia-Oceania Regional Division of IFLA, which is another elected unit. You know, there are 6 in the new dispensation, the new structure of IFLA that was brought in last year. There are now 6 regions around the world, which are regional divisions of IFLA, and they all have a committee of 20 people who are, in my personal opinion, and very frankly, struggling to sort of embed themselves in the IFLA system. But we're trying, and we're making slow progress. The thing is, my key message, I guess, to all you wonderful people out there in NZ is, and I'm speaking from Wellington, so, you know, it's a bit Urbi and Orbi, sorry. Remember that IFLA allows you to think laterally, and you don't, it gives you the opportunity to maybe break out of the professional category that you might normally work in on a daily basis. And as various of you have just said, for example, if you're in the academic, if you're in ARL, you don't have to be necessarily a university library staff member. You can be almost anybody with an interest in academic library, tertiary library issues. That's just one example. Some of the other sections, the more sort of theme-based sections like literacy and reading and things like that, you don't have to be a children's librarian to be a member of those sections. You can be anybody who's a member of IFLA. And because if you join IFLA, you get the opportunity to tick little boxes on the membership form and sign up for a certain number of sections. Okay, you pay €10 for each one or something like that. It's not much, but you get the chance to sign yourself up to follow the work of a certain number of sections. And this applies not only to you in New Zealand, but it applies to all the other people across Asia Pacific that we are linked with. So you can broaden, you can think laterally, you can broaden your connections transversally across the organization, as well as maybe deepening your connection within your professional category, like academic libraries, public libraries, children's libraries, national libraries, and so on. So it's a very, as somebody said, it's confusing, and it is a very varied organization. It takes quite a bit of understanding. You've got to look, if you look at the website and look at the structure of divisions and committees, you'll see that there are some wonderful opportunities there to get involved at the ground level. If you want to join IFLA, either through your institution membership or your own personal affiliate membership, then you can pick and choose which of these technical units you want to join. And then you can be a joined up member, a paid up member at the sort of grassroots level, but then you could take it to the next level. You could put your hand up to stand for election to a committee at the next stage, and the next committee elections will be 2023, because there will be 2 years. If you then if you get elected onto a committee, there's obviously a certain element of obligation to do a certain number of hours of work, and then you could take it further to the next level and put your hand up to be an officer of a committee, as some of you are. So there are various levels, and then there are also, aside from the technical sections and SIGs, there are the advisory committees. Somebody mentioned FAIF, which is Freedom of Access to Information, Freedom of Expression. Now, I'm on that advisory committee as well. And that is not something you can actually, they don't run elections in the same way. You volunteer to be elected, but the board decides whether or not you get onto it. I would also like to take this opportunity to put out, just to mention that in the next election round, we'll probably be looking for more people from Asia Pacific to be members of my division committee. I'm on 2 years of chairing this committee. At the end of my 2 years in August 23, I will end that term. We'll have to elect a new chair. We'll probably elect new people, and they could be anyone across, well, the present committee has members in New Zealand, Australia, Fiji, Samoa, Micronesia, Singapore, Philippines, Japan, China, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and they've all got elected on. And there are opportunities to do not only your daily work in collaboration with people in the same professional category, say university libraries, for example, but there's also opportunities to talk directly to people across the region and talk about your professional issues in the perspective of international development, which raises a whole lot of other questions, such as, can your university engage in, say, twinning arrangements with institutions in developing countries, for example? Can you provide assistance that way? Can you explore other opportunities for collaboration, international cooperation? And the advisory committees also deal with copyright and legal matters. So these are theme issues which you can explore as if you follow the networks of those advisory committees. For example, the FAIF, Freedom of Expression, Access to Information, the advisory committee is not only the committee, it's also the centre of a network of people who follow those intellectual freedom issues. So there are many opportunities to explore international collaboration there. For example, one of the problems we've been dealing with recently is the question of a question raised by some Scandinavian colleagues who wanted IFLA to expel all Russian members. And we had to look at the IFLA statutes, and we had to decide that, in fact, we cannot expel the Russian members because we do not have evidence that they have actually done anything wrong and against the values of IFLA. Their government may have done that. Their federated associations may have been too close to the government, but we do not have any proof, any evidence that our Russian members, who are normally very active, have actually done anything which is hostile to our Ukrainian members. So these are very complicated moral problems that we are trying to work through. Okay, that's enough from me. Right. Email me if you've got questions.
Thank you. That was, yeah, it's a very interesting area to be involved in at the moment. So any last questions before we close? No? Well, I'd like to thank all our speakers today. Really appreciate your coming along and sharing your experiences with us. It's been very interesting to see just how many different areas there are that you can get involved in, and we do have the opportunity. Sometimes it seems that things in Europe and that are a very long way from us and we can't get involved, but you've shown that it is possible, and there are lots of opportunities out there for all of us if we want to take them. So thank you everyone for joining us today.